What's up, mi gente? This is Café con Cultura, and we are your host, Rocio Cortez.
And I'm Magdalena Cortez.
So, welcome to what we would basically be calling our pilot. But before we even start talking about anything, before we say anything, we always want to give thanks to God just for, putting this idea into our hearts and our minds and making it a, reality. But other than that, we do want to say that after just so much planning, so much brainstorming, we're just completely excited to be here, right? Just to start the chisme with you guys and see what happens from there.
Right. We only figure it's only fair for us to begin by saying thanks to the people that have supported us up until now within our careers, those who have supported us in every decision and have made it possible for us to have the tools and the time for this to become it a reality, right? Today is all about introductions, all about you guys getting to know a little bit about who we are and what's our purpose here, why we did in the first place, right? I think the best way to go about that is just sharing with you guys the series of events that led us here in the first place. So Rocio is going to take it off first, and then I'll talk a little bit later, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think just when we're talking about the series of events, I think it only makes sense that way. But at the very, very beginning, I guess something we always want to make sure that you guys understand is that we grew up in a very, very Hispanic household. Not unlike other Hispanic households that, ours is a little bit different. Our story is a little bit different. And I hope you guys get to learn a little bit more about us and about our experiences growing up, honestly, because it was something beautiful. I feel like we've got it a really good mix of you guys will see. I guess, right? But for us, I mean, we grew up with really humble parents. My dad, he was a construction worker who eventually had his own company, ran his own company, right? And then my mom, she's cleaned houses on and off, but especially now that's what she does, right? She Both of them are really humble. They both work in something that isn't something that everybody wants to do. However, that's what I saw growing up, right? And I know that our parents bring us here and they're like, hey, you got to go to school, you got to do all these different things so that you're not working in the same things that we are. But when it came down to me to decide what I wanted to do, be my mom really, my dad never cared about what I was going to do. He always said, you do whatever it is that you want to do. However, the one and only thing that I ask you to do is that whatever you get into, you are the best at it. And that's it. You give your all and you become the best at whatever it is that you want to do. I don't care what it is. Right. And my mom, on the other hand, she really stressed about having good grades and going to the best college and doing all these different things. But when I started to think about what I wanted to do as an adult, I couldn't imagine myself in an office. I couldn't imagine myself in an air conditioned, place or anything like that. It's just, it didn't sit right with me growing up with parents the way that I did, to have a career that way. And did I want it? Yes. But it just didn't sit right with me. And I feel like that's something that happens a lot in our community and it's never spoken about, right? And some people do end up doing that, but then they have that just guilt, and they carry it around with them. But that happens, right? But either way, what I ended up doing is I worked as a waiter, as a barback actually first, but I worked in a restaurant for quite some time and I fell in love with it. I saw the hard work that went into being in a restaurant, whether you're in front of house, back of house, waiter, cook, chef, whatever it is that you are. I just felt like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted that hard work. And when I graduated high school, I said, you know what, let me take this for a career. And I did. I went to the Art Institute for culinary and I got my degree there. I actually originally went there because I wanted to run my own restaurant. I wanted to open up restaurants. I wanted to, basically be front of house. I didn't want to work in a kitchen. I wanted to be in front of house. But in school, I fell in love with cooking. It was one of those things too that my mom didn't really put me in the kitchen. I know some Mexican parents and some Hispanic parents will put you in the kitchen. My mom was like, my kitchen is my sanction. Get out of my kitchen unless I tell you to come in here, right? So when I was in the kitchen for school, because they teach you all that stuff when you go to culinary school, not just front of house, you got to learn both sides. I fell in love with it, and I figured that I actually was pretty good. It was pretty okay, right? Not the best, but I was pretty okay, and I just wanted to become better, and I stuck with it when I graduated. Um, I feel like everything happens for a reason, right? I graduated and I got a job right away. I got an offer from one of my last classes from a chef that came in, and a really, really amazing friend to me and my family right now, honestly. But he offered me a position, and that's actually where I met my husband, right? With my husband, he was my sous chef when I first met him, right? But yeah, I loved it. I worked in the kitchens for quite a while, and then kind of fast forward a little bit, I started climbing up the ranks within just my career in general. I made it up to actually becoming a chef, and that was something amazing for me. But everything, I feel like everything happens. It happened exactly the way it was supposed to. I was told that I would never have kids. However, my son came right when I was at the very, very peak of my career, right? I was at the peak of everything. I had just gotten promoted even more, and I was set to open up all these restaurants and do all these amazing things, everything that a woman would want in a career like that. um and then my son came, and for me at the time when he did come, I didn't want I had it set in my mind that I didn't want to leave the kitchen. I was like, I want my kid to see me, that I still kept it with my career, and it was so hard to leave that. However, working in the kitchen and having kids is difficult. You work, and if you're working as a cook, obviously you got your hours, things like that. But when you're salary, when you are a chef, when you don't have set times, you have your schedule, but you're not definitely gonna, work as much as you're supposed to. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week and trying to raise my son, my first son, without anyone around because I did move out 2,000 miles away from my parents. It was difficult. But, with all that happening, it's fine. I wanted to prove to him that I was going to do everything and still proceed and all these different things. However, what happened to me is what happened to a lot of other people, right? COVID. I had my son. I had just went back to work, and I was just getting the gist of stuff, right? And COVID happened. My job was deemed non-essential. I was sent home without a paycheck, just like a lot of other people. But myself and my husband were both chefs, so we're both sent home without a paycheck, and that's something where I had to be quick on my feet. I had to go figure it out, see what we're gonna do, and I just couldn't stay home, right? So fortunately, I had a friend who was already in the business that I'm in right now. She reached out. She said, "Do you want to make some extra cash?" I was like, "Absolutely, I don't care what we're gonna do. I just want to make some cash." Right? I joined the company not knowing what I was doing, and I got licensed very, very quickly in the financial field. And I loved it. I thought that the company was doing something amazing. I mean, teaching people about finances, the fact that, we graduated from high school and didn't even know how to pay off a credit card, didn't know how to do our taxes, didn't know, the fundamentals of what you have to do financially to set yourself up. I couldn't sit right with that. And so I got licensed quickly. However, when the restaurants opened back up, they called me and I ran, right? Like I said, I didn't want my kid to think that I abandoned a career just because he came or something like that, right? I wanted to really make it as far as I could, and I went back to the kitchen. But once I was back there, not being able to be with my kid as often as I wanted to, the hours versus the pay. I mean, restaurants were still only at 25, 40, 50% capacity. They weren't paying me what I was worth, right? And I decided to just do the other business part time. And it got to a point where I was making more the one day that I had off from the kitchen, because that's what I would do. I would spend my one day that I had off and I would do my financial field stuff, right? I would go on appointments and help out families and stuff like that. And I ended up making more the one day a week that I did that than the 80 to 100 hours that I spent in the kitchen. And I couldn't, then that didn't sit right for myself. I couldn't do that to my son, but it was very difficult. However, one of the, I, I'm, I'm Latina. I, I'm, I'm, hard headed when it comes to those things. And, for me, one of my very first appointments when I was doing the whole financial field stuff were my parents, because they said, "Who do you think needs this information? Who do you think, will benefit from this information?" And I right away thought about my parents. I sat down with them. We found out, well, we were told that my dad had a wrong kind of life insurance. And my dad wasn't investing. So obviously he was just working paycheck to paycheck. So we set him up with all these things. We got him a new life insurance. He still kept his old one, but we also set him up with some investment accounts, things like that, just setting him up. Unfortunately, 6 months after that meeting, my dad actually passed away, and it wasn't something that we were expecting. My dad was 46 years old. He was very, very young, right? Very young, very handsome. And he was healthy. He had little minor things, but nothing extreme, nothing like that. And when we lost him due to COVID, and then some, right? But that completely turned around everything for myself, because at that point, I always had that security of, if I don't make it, not that I'm planning on not making it or anything like that, if I don't make it, my dad's there. Right. He always told me that if you ever get tired of it, if anything ever happens, if anything ever goes south, you can always come home. But once he wasn't there anymore, that was it, right? However, we with his passing away, we actually did find out that he did have the wrong kind of life insurance, because my dad paid the other one for more than 18 years and they didn't pay a single cent, right? There's little tiny things in the contracts that we did read when we went over it, but they didn't pay out. And the one that we had put on him, he had only paid it for 6 months and they paid out completely. So that's when I started doing a little bit of digging. I didn't leave the field just yet, but then once my family started asking more questions, once the big conversations happened, because unfortunately in our community, we don't talk about these things, right? It's not something that we talk about in general. In my household, it was always something that we did, but in our community, we don't talk about it. But we started having that conversation, and I started seeing so much more in the company, and I started wanting to bring that back to my family as well and teaching them. And that's kind of where Maggie happened, right? Because I she was young, and I saw her and I'm like, hey, look, I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did, all these different things. And right, I was in student loan debts like crazy. I mean, I'm talking about more than $45,000 worth of student loan debts that I didn't even know I was going to have. I thought I was paying it while I was in school. Besides the point, right? So I brought her in, and I wanted to teach her a couple things, and little by little she started coming in. But I feel like this is where you come in, right? I feel like this is where your story comes in.
Yeah, well, while this was all going on for Lucille when she was figuring out her career, I was barely even, you know, she figured it out. When did you figure it out? You figured out what you wanted to do in your senior year, right? I actually always knew what I wanted to do, but I never told anyone because I did tell my mom once, and she said, you're crazy, you're a girl. How could you do that? I wanted to work with my dad. I actually wanted to inherit his company. I even love to go with him to work. For you guys it was probably like a punishment, but for me it was like actually a work, like I loved it. I always thought that was gonna be my career, but when I told my mom like you're a woman, you're crazy. You think your dad or your brother's gonna let you do that? Turns out they didn't. I thought they were gonna do it because, I'm the little girl or whatever, but no, they didn't. And then after that, I did have a hobby. I say it's a hobby because I think it was a hobby. A lot of people tell me it's not a hobby, but I would love to just hear about documentaries about um psychology, how the brain works, how people react, how they react. Um, I love learning about that. Even in high school, I was even taking some college classes about it. I already had college credit. By the time it was my senior year, I always had this idea that I was going to be a therapist or a psychologist or something, right? Something that has to do with psychology. But when it was time to pick my schools, I actually didn't get into the college. I didn't get into the college that I wanted to get into. So after that, I was like so heartbroken. I told myself I'm going to take a year off. And during that year, I was trying to find myself. And I finally had my first boyfriend that year. I found my first boyfriend. I actually met him uh sophomore year. He was in my same Spanish class. I used to ask him out all the time, but he would always reject me. He said that, back then he was a little bit big back then, so he had some insecurities. He said that he thought like I was joking or I was making fun of him. I was like, no, no, I wasn't. But um I finally you know went on a date with him. Well, when I was taking my year off from college. And during that year, I was trying to find out like what I wanted to do. Did I want to go back to college and do psychology? Um, and I decided no, I don't, because it was more like a hobby. I didn't want that for my career, and I always knew that I didn't want something that would leave me down in student debt, and I'm not gonna make a career off of it, right? So I was searching for a career that I wanted, and I landed on esthetician. I wanted to do waxing, I wanted to do eyebrows, I wanted to do that type of stuff. And when I was searching up schools and I finally found the school that I wanted to go, I ended up getting pregnant. I ended up getting pregnant, so I did put a pause on doing all that because I just started working and working. And after that, I went with Rocio to work with her. It took me a while to get my insurance, my financial license, right? It took me a big while. I even quit as well because I was like, this is too much.
But
But
you
the
got
reason
it.
why, yeah, I did. Now I got it. But the reason why is because I was just so stressed out with the baby and I was picking up even more longer hours at work so I can save up for that. Right. So I wasn't really paying attention on my studies, trying to get that license. And then when the baby was about I want to say, well, she was 6 months. She was 6 months. I called her, so I was like, I want to do it again. She was like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then after that, it only took me 2 months because I was still having, I would only study in the night. And that's the only time I had time because my baby is really, really clingy. So I finally got my license, and you have no idea how happy I was. My husband even took me out for breakfast because I took it in the morning, and he was so happy. And that day was really good luck because a woman that sat next to us paid for our bill at the restaurant. It wasn't like, $100 bill or whatever, but she did tip the waiter and she did pay for our meal. So I was like, oh my God, yes, this is my lucky day or what? But yeah, I guess that's all for my introduction. It's not as much as Rocio, but I just wanted to point out that Rocio is actually 6 or 7 years older than me. So of course she's gonna have more life experience than me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think that's going to be one of the topics that we talk about either way. Our age difference because we do have a big age difference, and it's a big difference. And you know, and I like that you bring that up because, um, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do as a career, when I was thinking about all these different things, I knew that I wanted to make more than the average person income wise because I didn't want to do it just for me. I knew that eventually I was going to want to have a family. Obviously, I had to support them, help support them with my husband as well, right? But one of the things that I really wanted for myself ever since I was small is that I wanted to make sure that I had enough money to support my sister as well when she grew up. Fast forward, right? When you grew up, when you're going through all your stuff, I wasn't able to do that. And that was the way that I was able to say, you know what? I can't do what I always wanted to, but I can help you and I can help guide you in this business that can definitely, put yourself and your family in a different position. And I feel like that is how I gave back to you. When we're small, we put ourselves all these big dreams and things like that. And I'm not saying that it's not possible, but right now, just for the time being, just for everything that we went through, I mean, I think that we are where we're supposed to be. And if we do this together, it's going to be a lot better than if I were to have done it by myself or anything like that. And, I can't wait to see what gets us to this, right? But
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually, having you was really a big life lessons. Even though like we weren't really close growing up, I actually
right.
did watch because I am a observer. I watch people, and
Yeah.
that kind of sounded creepy coming out of my mouth, but no, I
No,
watched
no, not
people,
at
and I
all.
watched you grew
No.
up, and I watched you, figured out your
Oh yeah.
career. So when I didn't figure out my career by the time, in senior year, I mean I did, but I just didn't get to the college I wanted to. I
Right.
was just so upset because I was like, I wanted to be like the next Rocio, like I wanted to just go and do my career and thrive on it. But then when I took my year off, that's when, you started expressing to me how much student debt you had, and I started thinking about that. It's not in a bad way. It might sound like a bad way, but it wasn't. It actually is really eye-opening for me because I was like, I don't want to go to a college when I was, already debating if I really wanted it to be my
Right.
career or not. So I didn't want that forever gonna stick with me as well, right? So
Right.
I don't know, just watching you and do all your stuff, especially in the field that we're in right now, our careers. I already watched you as well when you were trying to work your butt off, trying to get those policies, trying to get those license. I already saw what you're doing, how many no's you were saying you were getting from people, how many like
Oh
don't
yeah.
talk to me or ever and stuff like that. Like, oh, that's not something you should talk about. Like I
Oh
already seen
yeah.
that from your point of view. So when I started in this career, I was already prepared. It is tough, experiencing it my end, but I already know that you already done it before. You probably heard more no's than I ever have, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, you are a big sister, even though we have a big age gap. I have seen your ups and your downs and how you learned from it and how you thrive from it. And it really
Yeah.
did help me.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that used to really, really get to me growing up is that, I always saw you were my little sister forever, right? I had a really amazing big brother. I still have a really amazing big brother, sorry. But growing up, it was a really, really big thing for me because he was my protector, right? He was my bodyguard, my everything. He always took care of me so much. So when I had you as a little sister, it was a huge age gap, but I just wanted to take care of you. I wanted to do all these different things, right? And as we grow up, we learn certain lessons, we go through certain experiences, and then we have to take it at heart. One of the things that was so difficult for me was that I had to watch you go through some lessons, and I would try to talk to you. I would try to tell you, hey, I've done that. Take it from your sister who you used to see literally in the bed next to you crying in the middle of the night because some guy did this, or because I don't know, something happened at school and I got a bad something. And obviously, when you're in college and you get a bad grade, that's not the same as high school. It's like I got to pay for that class over again. Right. And all these different experiences that I went through. And I tried to tell you and I try to say, hey, look, maybe this and maybe that. And I wish I had somebody to tell me this. And then you would just say, no, no, I'm going to do it however I want to. And I'm like, just, I get you because I was that person. But I'm just happy that you have grown into such an amazing person. Honestly, you've always been an amazing person, but just the person that you are now. I mean, you're an amazing mom. You're an amazing woman. You're an amazing just trainer yourself too. You're learning how to be a trainer too within our field, and I can't wait to see more from that. And I feel like this is a good place to start, right? Because that is where our podcast starts. That is where what we're going to be talking about the most is going to be our experiences, because our experiences is what sets us aside from a lot of other people, just mentality wise, and other areas as well, just our just the way that we were able to handle certain situations. And I mean, the biggest thing that we went through was losing our dad, right? And I feel like we we handled it. Obviously, we
Oh,
went through our
no.
stuff,
Well, that's
but
because my dad really did prepare us.
yeah,
My
he
dad really
did.
did
He did.
prepare us for this day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I watch your stuff going through it, and I watch my mom as well. My mom would say the same thing as you, like I already did that, like it's not gonna work out. Hey,
Right.
if you do this, that, I always been the type of person where I'm like, well, you did it. Well, then I want to experience it too.
Let
I don't
me learn my
care.
lesson.
Yeah, let me learn my lessons, okay? It's not like it's gonna be the same outcome, you never know. So that's how I think. I just think like, okay, you done it, then let me do it, okay? Like I know it's
Right.
gonna probably make me cry or make me sad or whatever. I don't care, right? I want to experience it myself. Let me learn my own lesson, right? Let me
It was
have
one
those
of the,
experiences.
oh yeah. I think you put it perfectly in words. Let me know what it is that it feels like to go through that. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to share our past experiences because I feel like that's what's the main point here, right? I feel like a lot of times we go through so much within our culture, within our community, and we just don't talk about those things. And that's something that I've learned a lot from sitting down with different families. And obviously, when I sit down with families, what I'm looking at is their finances. I help them in that area, but it also brings up the fact that there's a lot of conversations that aren't being had within our community, and I'm that's why this project was put into my heart because I would love to bring it out to the community. I'd love to hear what you guys just have experienced and all that because yeah, I think our experiences really molded us. I know a lot of our family members even tell us that we grew up a little bit different. We grew up with the strict uncle, right? The really strict uncle, not the oh he's kind of no, he was very strict. However, he was also very loving, and he I feel like we watched our parents grow a lot too because um
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you gotta understand,
was
like our
yeah.
parents were basically teenagers when they had their own kids, so they were
Oh, they were
growing up themselves.
babies. They were babies. They were
Yeah,
preteens. Yeah, they weren't
yeah.
even teenage. Well, my dad was a teenager. My mom was a preteen. They were babies and they were raising babies and
Yeah.
we got to learn alongside them and see them grow honestly. And I think that's just beautiful. So, I mean, I hope that you guys are ready. We're gonna dive into our first episode soon and I hope that you guys are gonna be alongside us just with your cafecito ready for the chisme, right?
Yep, yep. And mom, if you're listening, if you got this far, then we love you. We appreciate everything that you have done for us. Even when we told you that we're doing this, thank you for the support and not
All right.
laughing, right? Uh
Oh no.
so but she even said, I'll go on it too if you want me to go on it. Okay, mom.
Oh, I was gonna ask.
Another
I was
another episode,
Oh,
okay?
she's definitely coming on here. You guys are gonna learn so much from a very beautiful woman and she, man, I sometimes when I look at my life, I'm like, yeah, no, it's not even that. It's good. Like my mom has gone through everything. And
Oh yeah,
yeah.
my mom has protected me through a lot of
Oh
stuff,
yeah. Oh
but we
yeah.
can dive into that in other episodes as well.
Absolutely.
And without my mom, I would have been a really completely different person. I'll just tell you that.
I wouldn't have been here today if it wasn't for my mama. I'll tell you that much.
That's
Eh,
true.
literal, emotionally, everything. Everything.
When they say that moms know everything, moms actually do know everything. You know, I was fighting for my life when I was a teenager, and I didn't even see it myself, but she did. She did.
Oh yeah,
So
she knows.
moms always know everything. You can't ever hide anything from them.
Right, right. All
Yeah,
right.
we just want to say thank you for all the support. If you made it this far, this is only an introduction. And then just go to the next episode. I'm pretty sure the next episode is gonna be more, how would you say it, Rocio?
We're gonna jump right into our experiences. We're gonna jump right into the nitty-gritty of what we want to talk about and what we want to bring to our community, honestly. I think that's what it is, right? Just
Yeah.
understanding ourselves as first generation Hispanic American, Latinos, whatever it is you want to call yourself. Just understanding that we're built different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Then bye, mi gente. Love you. Hope you had a good coffee and good chisme. Well, it's not that much of a chisme, but chisme.
Nonetheless. We'll see you in the first episode. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.